they can run. They got a lot of guys that get down the line quick. They're got some stuff on the mound, especially at the front of the games, and yeah, they're going to be a well-coached team.
We'll talk with Max about the hot streak you guys are on right now. You pointed to the first crate game as kind of that turning point. What have you, obviously the results aren't good to speak for themselves, but what have you seen from your team in the dugout, off the field that's kind of, led to the success on the field? Because you mentioned before there's been some issues of not enough energy in the dugout, some games or whatnot. So
yeah.
What have you seen from them?
Well, I think, what happened there was that we had a couple of our guys that are, leaders on the team speak up. And, you got to back it up when you do that. And so, that's the best teams that I've ever played on and coached have that peer leadership. I mean, you've got to have that. The player leadership on teams is the most important part of, obviously, aside from talent, of being the team that you want to be. And so I think that was a big part of it. But you have to be able to sustain that too. You can't just do it one time and just think it's, it can last for a short period of time, but you've got to continue to have that. So I think that's part of it. What I've seen is a little bit more of a selfless brand of baseball. Putting the ball in play with 2 strikes and taking our walks and, being on our toes defensively. And it hasn't necessarily been perfect in any of those areas, but it's been, one team, one heartbeat, I guess you could say, for the last 4 games.
Did you find a little something offensively just from last weekend with laying down a few more sacrifices and getting guys involved that way?
I would like to think so, just from the standpoint of, just some guys that we haven't asked to do it a lot. We're able to do it. I mean, Carey's laid down three or four really nice bunts this week, and Evans and some of those guys. So I think just really the main part is the guys that are hitting at the back of the lineup have to play a role. Everybody's got to play a role, but the top 4 guys in our lineup have pretty consistently swung the bats well. The guys at the back of the order need to find ways to help the team win when they're not swinging the bats well, and that's taking walks, laying down bunts, putting the ball in play with 2 strikes. Or if they're going to punch out or make an out, make it be a 6 or 7 pitch at bat, and so, and we've seen that. And we've seen that from this group that we're capable of doing that. We've done that from time to time. In the 9 of 10 stretch that we had earlier this year, that's what we had. I think that's a big part of it, is just that knowing what your role is and going and executing that role.
Do you keep the same rotation this weekend? And how does maybe the fact that it's an earlier week and you have the tournament after that affect how you use your pitching?
Yeah, we'll have the same rotation. Everybody's moved up a day, obviously. I would like Emmett to be very economical with his pitch count. So what that looks like as far as how, we'll do what it takes to win the game, but I also want to be smart about knowing that we're going to try to bring those guys back on a short rest again next week potentially. So there's a little bit of a fine line there, but really, truth be told, Emmett just needs to go empty the tank, on Thursday and have some quick innings and, allow us to do what we want to do, not only this week, but to set ourselves up for next week.
You guys you're within a few home runs of that team single season record. Where did that come from? Now that you're almost to that point, kind of how surprising was it? Where did the power come from?
Well, it helps when you have 2 guys that hit 20. That's kind of what it takes. In some offensive statistics, you've usually got to have 1 or 2 guys kind of carry the load. Max hasn't shown that kind of power, and neither has Bryce. So those 2 guys, another year of physicality and just being on the barrel more often for Bryce, and then Max just kind of, last year he probably flew out to the warning track like 7 times last year. So I think maybe just a little bit more physicality this year has allowed some of those balls to go out of the park. Although I think he's probably flown out to the warning track 7 additional times this year as well. So, I think just being a year older and stronger for those 2 guys. Gabe Swanson, you can see him, what he looked like as a freshman versus what he looks like now physically. Just getting the barrel there consistently, and the ball's going to go. So those 3 guys have obviously had the lion's share of the the home runs for us. We've had some guys chip in like we thought we might, with Karen showing some power at times. And so I thought we would drive the ball. I thought maybe it would come maybe a little bit more spread out. But, man, what power numbers that those guys have put up. I mean, 2 guys were 20 and another guy was 16, and we're still playing. So, it's been, but I guess my biggest thing is like finding other ways to score when you don't hit the home run, and finding other ways to win when you don't hit the home run. You don't want to be too reliant on that.
With you guys already knowing you're going to the Big Ten tournament, what kind of mindset do you bring forward into the end of the regular season with games that maybe don't matter in terms of getting into the tournament?
The mindset that we want to dominate our opponent. That mindset.
Corbin's journey, I mean, almost got cut freshman year, makes that adjustment, he's thriving. What you see from him over the years, and just like what does that say about him as a person to make that adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, the talent is, he'd probably be the first to admit it's marginal. It's marginal talent, but it's above average compete. It's above average makeup, in terms of what's inside of him. And that we knew that coming out of high school, out of Millard West, that, he was probably a better player than what his tools would tell you he is. And he was on his, probably on his deathbed as a pitcher at Nebraska, so to speak, in terms of over the top at 87. He gave up some home runs, and it didn't look like he was going to do much. And he could have gone one or two ways. It's like, hey, we're going to try to increase the velocity, or we're going to go drop down and see if we can do that. I think the way his arm naturally works, we thought that the sidearm gig might be the way to go. And again, because of what's inside of him, what his makeup looks like, he was able to make that adjustment. And he throws strikes. That's really, when you face those sidearm guys, like a lot of times they just don't throw the ball over the plate, and they certainly don't throw a second pitch for a strike. They just rely on chase. And what you've seen from him is he pounds the zone. I mean, he can throw the fastball away to a righty, he can throw it in, and he can throw the slider for a strike. And he's mixed in the changeup as well, which has allowed him to get left-handed hitters out. So hats off to him. I mean, without him and our bullpen, I mean, we would be in a world of hurt. And he's really helped stabilize some games for us on the mound.